Today's show, we talk about everything from immigration to Border Patrol to actual solutions, even fentanyl crossing the border. I sit down with Bianca Gracia. She is a powerhouse and she knows so much about the border. So hit like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you don't miss an episode. You blew my mind. Because at the time I was living in another state and we were having issues at the border. And then I found out you were in South Texas and you were actually with a group of folks that were living down at the border. And I had family that lives down at the border. So we had kind of a lot in common. We were talking about the valley. But the border is an issue that really I'd have to say this. The border of Texas and the border is the first line of defense for the United States.
Absolutely.
But it feels like that right now the border is such a controversial subject that it shouldn't be a controversial subject, that both parties, right and left, they use the border as political props and as talking points. And we've lost the vision of the purpose of our border. And then we're hiding the facts and don't want to talk about the facts of what's going on at the border.
Correct.
And when I met you, you knew so much about the border that you really blew my mind.
So thank you, Kambree. I don't even consider myself a border expert per se, but I guess because I've been covering the border and being a vocal voice or an advocate for our Border Patrol agents and getting the information from them as well as the locals that actually have to deal with this on a day-to-day basis for the past 4 or 5 years now. I guess it doesn't make me an expert, but I feel like I'm living it. And I grew up in South Texas, so I think we've always had a border problem. And you're right. It's the open border per se has always been an issue, and it gets thrown back from party to party. And it's been a political platform that they've run on, closing the border, securing the border, border wall, border fence. We've heard this for decades.
Right.
But I think that in the last, 2 years right now, we have seen unprecedented amount of people coming in through our Texas border. Back in March, when Biden took office, and I call it the Biden regime, when he took office, we knew, and the Border Patrol agents knew what to expect.
The Biden administration has decided, because typically when a person comes into the United States and they seek asylum, they go through the process and they go through a DOJ asylum judge.
Yeah.
He's pulling that out.
Correct.
And he's putting in asylum officers, and these are not judges.
Right. No, they're not. And so what has happened is before Trump left office,
Okay.
I got a White House press to cover. He went down and visited and did a press conference from the border wall right before he left office. I got to cover that, not attend that, but I got to cover it on a journalist end. And I can tell you, we had Border Patrol agents, we had their staff, administrative staff, they're welcoming the, Trump to come in. This is what really got me. This is when I knew our state was in trouble. Here we have the president of the United States leaving, who was at the forefront fighting for national sovereignty, building the wall, delivering on what he said he was going to deliver, doing what Border Patrol agents from the forefront had told him, this is our needs, this is what we have to have and need to do our job. Here it is, we're at the end of his term. Not one elected official, not one of Texas showed up to welcome him, to say, thank you, we got it from here. Thank you for your service.
Governor Abbott didn't show up.
No, none. No elected official, not one, none. No congressman, no legislation, no lieutenant governor, no governor showed up.
But it's interesting because they do talk about it when they're running for
when
office.
They need to, and that's my point. And here's where it hits you with community. This is why I'm so passionate about the border, because I had grown men and I saw it and I witnessed it. Now the mainstream media, it was all liberals there. So they're not going to show this. You had grown men with tears in their eyes. And I wondered, why is a grown Hispanic man, you never see them cry,
right, that's true,
have tears down their eyes as they saw, 'em, the commanding, or their chief coming down the stairways. and waving, knowing he was coming out of office. And there was no one there from Texas to do that. And I saw that and I asked them, why? Why are y'all so emotional? And they said, because we know what's coming.
Do you feel like when you talk to people that are at the border, when you talk to the Border Patrol agents, do you feel like, what are the people that live in those border cities? They have to feel like they've completely been abandoned, especially considering we have a conservative governor who apparently has all these. He's been running on securing the border for 30 years. So it makes me chuckle sometimes when I hear him talking about it. Do we feel like we are abandoning them because we have an issue with trafficking?
Yes.
In the state of Texas.
So here is what's happening is that the Border Patrol has unions, right? They have their unions, and their union is politicized. They will go and endorse people, and they've endorsed Greg Abbott, And so if you talk to their higher ups in the Border Patrol, they're like, oh yeah, Abbott's doing what he can for us. But if you talk to all the lower people, the working class, it's no different than politics, and you got your elected officials and you got your grassroots, right? It's the same thing. So you talk to everybody who's on the field, they're dying out there. I'm going to tell you right now, I just talked to a person, one of my sources this morning, and this is what she said. I was driving, crossing Brownsville into Port Isabel. There was a Border Patrol agent who obviously had done a stop, probably of an illegal, but that was evading. The illegal was beating up the Border Patrol agent. Beating him up.
And this is happening probably more than we know.
This is happening more than we know. Border Patrol agents are taking their lives. The suicide rate is horrible.
Why do you think
Border Patrol agents?
I don't see this in the media. I don't hear it in the
They're
media.
not going to talk about it because they don't want Americans to really know how bad it is.
I know the Hispanic community has to be fed up.
They are. And this is why you're seeing the redness, the purple red wave down in the Rio Grande Valley because they're fed up.
Well, let's talk about that.
Like a little bit. It's they dealt with the illegal problem forever, but not this massive.
Because they like to label us as we hate Hispanics.
No.
It's funny because I have in my family, we hate Hispanics. The left wants to, basically dehumanize us. And actually now they're starting to dehumanize, Hispanics and Mexican Americans. But people at the border have gotten so tired and so fed up. I think they're crying out for help that they're starting to flip red.
It's hurting them locally with their taxes, their health care, and their education. So they're having to now, parents are being fed up because they were masking their children, right? But then the illegals didn't have to follow the same rules as the Americans did. So that's where they're starting to wake up. They're going, wait a minute. We live here. We've lived here with everything.
So this is like incentivizing. I think that they're incentivizing that because the state of Texas gets a lot of money when someone comes in, and I know that there's so much that goes more into this with the illegals, but they're incentivizing this, and
it might feel like that, but at the local level, they don't feel that.
They just feel the pain.
They feel the pain. They feel the draining of their resources. They have no resources. The schools are, run down. Teachers are fed up.
President Trump did as much as he possibly could.
But they weren't dealing with this. They were not dealing with this during Trump's 4 years.
Very true.
You didn't hear these stories. Ranchers were not getting their fences cut, their cattle, their water wells. They weren't dealing with their break-ins, their cars being, stolen. They were not dealing with this. And so it has really been the last year and a half. Now, here's where it really pivoted. So I started calling it an invasion right away.
Right.
And then everybody, like I said, was like, oh my gosh, no. But then as the numbers came in August, when I talked to Border Patrol, this was last year in August. Okay, we're going on a year from now. In August, I said, is there anything you want me to relay out to public? Because I have a platform, so I speak out or I push or I advocate. Whatever that we do in our organization does, what can we do to help? Do you know that the Border Patrol literally in August of last year said, we don't really have much left to say. I'm like, what do you mean you have nothing left to say? Don't you have numbers? Don't you have anything? They said, we've lost all control of the border. We're no longer in control of our border. I said, excuse me? They said, all of our border. We've lost control. The cartel now is in full control of the border, which is what brings me to the story I heard of today, where the illegal was beating up our Border Patrol agent because they are pretty much told they cannot do anything. They can't fight back. They can't fire. They can't do anything. And here's the other thing. Let's just get this straight. Governor Abbott, this whole Operation Lone Star, even our National Guard has written about it, that it's been a total failure. What's going to be extremely important for Texans to do this next session is to show up at the Capitol and to testify.
While they're in session?
Yes, while they're and even before that. Right now they're having committee hearings. You have to be active and you have to be out there knocking on the doors of our elected officials and letting them know that we demand demand actual
I think that's what
change.
we have to do, because people can go protest on the Capitol.
No, that's not going to work. That's not going to work.
It's not.
No.
But it's going to force us. I've said this so many times. I actually said this in front of a congressman just recently. I said, a politician is not going to save you. The politician is not going to do a job.
No.
We have to get people out on the ground, especially people in South Texas, which we're starting to see a shift, and we're going to cover that in just a second. We have to get people out on the ground. We have to get them talking to their neighbors. There's so many people right now that are fed up over the last few years. They're tired, the drama. They don't want to have anything to do with politics. I get it. But some people are not aware of what's going on.
Exactly.
And people need to be made aware of what's going on, because it's impacting even our children. Let's talk about trafficking.
Trafficking. So that's okay. So people tell me, oh, Bianca, you're so insensitive to the illegals and you're so insensitive. And I'm like, really? Well, I don't think I'm insensitive. Women and children are being raped at the border to get here.
Right. That's true.
And not just one. It's massively happening. They have rape trees, and they talk about this all the time. The cartels, the smugglers, they're trophies. They take the woman's underwear and they hang it on the tree, and each territory, each zone is like, this is my, where they come in through, it could be one cartel leaders, this is another cartel leaders. So they actually compete as into how many women and children they can rape. Okay, that's disgusting and evil.
Just recently I had a conversation. They said, hey, a buddy told me that he's a businessman, donor, huge in the Republican Party, but when it comes to people crossing the border, he has people that he can get to come across the border and do the jobs. And this is something we're not talking about as well.
So here's another easy solution. If you need workers, then go back and get them a working visa so that they can come and work. But you don't let illegals come in here, drain us in resources of our health care, drain us in resources of our education, drain us in resources all over any other which way you can think of, not pay taxes. So we're paying for them. So if you really, I say to those people who are, I can't find other people, shame on you, because there's ways that you can actually go and request to bring in people to work on your farm, your ranch, whatever, your construction company. But shame on that. So here's the other thing. Then shame on my people for allowing themselves to be used for the lower wage. Shame on them for that.
It's sad. It's a cycle of insanity.
It's a cycle of insanity. And this has been going on forever. That's what I'm saying. The illegal crossings, it's been done for decades. This is what we've been battling. And this is why Republicans and Democrats go back and forth. Like, we're gonna be the ones to save. We're gonna be the ones to give you amnesty.
I believe that the Democrats are about to turn on the Latinos. I have a really weird feeling before the election they're going to start turning. But we've seen people in South Texas say enough. The women. We're seeing the rise of the Hispanic women at our southern. We have Maya Flores. We have Monica De La Cruz. I mean, we have these women that are, they call them the quad.
Cassie Garcia.
Mm-hmm. Those are like kind of like the squad, but they call them the quad. But we have women that are coming in, speaking up for the girls as a mother, as a strong female, as a husband, as a border patrol agent. And they're flipping these cities that have been, liberal cities, blue cities for years.
100 years. But I always said that. When I worked for the Republican Party of Texas, I always said that to the Republican Party. you don't listen. Hispanics by nature are very conservative people.
Absolutely, they are.
So the thing is, they've never been educated. Nobody's engaged with them. Nobody's outreach. Nobody's had a conversation with them to tell them what our policies are. If you just tell the Hispanic community what the policies are, they vote on policy.
That's what
but
I have heard.
No one has ever done that
They don't want to know what's wrong.
Right.
They want to say, they don't want to say, oh, tell me what's wrong. They know what's wrong at
They
the
know
border.
what's wrong.
They know people
They
are
know what's
crossing.
wrong.
They're getting people shot.
They want solutions.
They want someone
Kambree.
to tell them, I'm going to come into the state of Texas in this position, and this is exactly what I'm going to do. One thing that I want to say about the fentanyl, right now, if you have a teenager, a lot of these social media sites, people are using TikTok, Facebook, they're using Twitter, and they're using specific emojis to actually speak to these teens when it comes to drugs. And so since we touched on that and since becoming a major problem, and I'm a mom, if you have a child and you can check their social media, go ahead and do that so you can make sure that they're not dabbling into something, because everything that's coming across the border is laced. So thank you for joining me, and get the resources. Log online, find out what's happening in your backyard, because it's not very popular for our media to talk about what's happening at the southern border. They want to keep us fighting. They don't want solutions. So with that being said, I'll see you down the road.
So our marketing team tells us that everybody loves videos of cats.
Not everyone.
Well, maybe not everyone. But if you love cat videos, if you love liberty, and if you love getting your most trusted political news from anywhere in the state, we're inviting you to subscribe to Texas Scorecard. Now, you might not actually see any videos of cats in our content, but you will see videos that help you stay informed and up to date on the most recent shenanigans from the litter box Capitol down in Austin. So subscribe to our YouTube channel today, click the bell, and become an informed citizen.